It's Mock Draft Monday, the first one of the season. As these NFL mocks for the 2022 draft start to roll out, we have to get into who the Chargers are most likely to pick, including could they decide to take Jordan Davis with the 17th overall pick?
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade. Joined as always my co-host, David Drogemeyer. We've been covering the Chargers for more than 6 seasons, and this is our 5th going into as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. What's up, guys? What another wild weekend of football, but we are back here with more Chargers talk. Thank you guys for making us your first listen. And as always, make sure you don't miss the show. Go subscribe to our new Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and follow the show for free on all platforms, wherever you get your podcast from. But David, it's the first Mock Draft Monday of the season. And as we start going through the prospects, we'll continue to do these and we'll get into some that we are picking out as well. But today we're just going to talk about some guys that we like or dislike that many other experts have been picking for the Chargers at 17. We don't know the exact draft position for all the teams yet in the NFL, but there's plenty of mock drafts to choose from. So the Chargers did put out a mock draft roundup, basically going through all the biggest mock drafts. And we have the guys most likely selected for the Chargers in these mocks, including Jordan Davis, the giant defensive tackle from Georgia. And we'll also talk about Trevor Penning, some help for the Chargers at right tackle, and then get into some edge defender help with George Karlaftis at the end of the show. But David, this guy, Jordan Davis, is tempting, right? Just from a very need-based thought process, right? And just when you look at him physically, I mean, we're talking about an absolute behemoth of a man. And just looking at the role he would play for the Chargers, right? He slides into where Linval Joseph has been playing. He's just a monstrous presence in the middle of the field. But the Chargers need help at defensive tackle. So just looking at the position, if they ended up going with defensive tackle, which multiple different experts had them taking me. Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus, Mike Renner of Pro Football Focus, Mel Kiper Jr., ESPN, all had the Chargers taking this defensive tackle from Georgia who makes a lot of splash plays, but it starts with the need, and this would be a need-based pick for the Chargers because obviously they need presence, they need help stopping the run, and this guy would help that, and the Chargers need more of those bodies.
Yeah, for sure. As far as the fit of the need for the Chargers, there's no question that your Chargers need to get more effective. They need to get younger. They need to get stronger at the point of attack on the defensive side, especially in the middle of the defensive line. Linval Joseph has played admirably the last couple of years, and they've had a couple of decent, people come in and provide, some okay play to, try to keep them, afloat. I mean, that's really what that's all it's been. They haven't really been super effective.
Nobody's been dominant. And three of those 4 guys, we don't even know if they're coming back yet. So, like, right now, that position group, it's like Jerry Tillery and, like, Joe Gonziano, and that's it,
Yeah, so they need to add bodies. I think this is a position group, Daniel, that they're probably going to look to add bodies both in free agency and in the draft.
Yeah, and what they do in free agency is going to help us, know what they're going to target, especially early on in the draft. And with these picks, me and David are starting our draft process, and it's fun to focus in on some guys, especially in the first round. And we were talking like there could be 10 dudes the Chargers go with at 17 as we see it right now. And you can't really say that dude's not going to fall because we had Rashawn Slater, and we saw what happened with that last year, right? So you can't ever know what's going to happen. Derwin James, Sante Samuel Jr., all those guys, like you just didn't think they were going to fall to where they ended up falling. But getting back to Jordan Davis specifically, there's a lot to like, and we'll get into kind of the takeaways or, what would make us hesitant to make this pick for the Chargers at 17. But just as far as, what he does bring to the table, right? Crazy tackling radius. I mean, the dude is huge. He has the arms of a pterodactyl. Like, he can bring down dudes. Like, he's like a vortex in the middle of a defensive line, especially in the run game. You can't block him with one single dude, right? He's super strong anchoring when they do double team him. He doesn't give up a lot of ground, and he just has that kind of freakish strength to just throw people out of the way. But what did you like about Jordan Davis?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that obviously reveals itself, very quickly is he's just a massive presence. Like the dude is just gigantic, 6'6", 340 to 360 pounds, depending on which website that you look at. I mean, it definitely very there's variations of that. But what is not any different is that this guy is impossible to block with one guy. I mean, if you block him with one guy, you're setting yourself up for failure. You have to double team this dude if you really want to have any kind of chance for success. And he does a good job of defeating those double team blocks too. He shows a lot of effort, especially in pursuit. I think he moves very, very well for a big man. And he's physical and effective, very effective on those short down and distance situations. He does a phenomenal job of getting really, really low to the ground and really cutting off any avenues to move forward through the middle of the defensive line. He's super effective in those situations. I think those are all the things that really stood out to me on just this first pass of watching Jordan Davis.
He would bring an absolute presence, right? He
Yeah.
would bring a presence to the interior of the Chargers defensive line that maybe they haven't had since Jamal Williams, right? Just a dude that you're afraid to run at, because the Chargers don't necessarily have that right now. And teams would be afraid to run at that dude because you have to double team him. And even then, I mean, he's freeing up linebackers and guys to go make those tackles. And Georgia had such a great defensive front. But at the same time, David, when you talk about, yes, the Chargers need a defensive tackle, but the positional value there, unless you're getting a true 3 down, can stop the run, can rush the passer type of player,
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard to argue that should be a first round pick. So as much as it would be so nice to get a guy who would change kind of what your defense seems like and just give you so much more toughness and size and physicality, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right pick or that there's not drawbacks to that as well.
Right. And speaking of those drawbacks, I think you alluded to the most important one is that this guy is a true 2 down player. He's gonna help you on first and second down in those obvious run down situations, but he offers very little as a pass rusher. He just doesn't have that pass rush repertoire that you're looking for. I mean, this is a guy that when you get him to the NFL, you're gonna have to build his pass rush profile pretty much from the ground up.
Yeah.
Obviously, the dude is extraordinarily strong, so you can build off of a bull rush. And when he does get his pads low and he keeps, that leverage, like he can forklift people, no question about that. But that's the problem. Because the guy is so big, most of the time he has a lot of problems playing too high. And he needs to really control his leverage in those situations. Like I said, he just needs to show more effort when pass rushing too. That's just one thing I was a little bit nitpicky about. Jordan Davis is a guy who's really going to help you a lot against the run, but he needs a lot of help against the pass. So at the first round pick, 17th overall, I just don't know if he's a complete enough player to take at 17.
And as me and David go through this, we'll get some context as to what's going to be available in the second round, getting to see all the rest of the defensive tackles as well. If there's somebody that fits what the Chargers want to do or what they need, at a better value, we still have to kind of look through that, right? Like Fadarian Mathis is a guy from Alabama. I don't really know where he's going to go, but I know I've liked it in the little I've seen. He'd be a guy I'd be interested in, right? So there's other options besides the Chargers going that direction at 17. As far as Jordan Davis goes, I mean, going to what you were saying, the snap counts he had at Georgia, I mean, it was a very, very talented defense, but like the dude played less than 60% of the snaps his senior year. He went back for his last season. In his 4 years, he only had 7 sacks, right? Which is not the numbers you want to see if you're looking for a guy who can help you in the pass rush game as well. And we know the Chargers don't get enough pass rush on the interior. And I think that's what is tough about this pick as well, is like, if you're going to spend the capital to go get that dude, like the dude better be able to fix a lot of the problems that you have on the inside. And like, you would just need a really special player to fix that for the Chargers. And there's some talent out there in free agency they could look at as well. So maybe it doesn't seem like as much as a need when you get to the draft and that finally gets here. But it is tempting just because the dude is so freakish, just because that like he would bring a different element to the Chargers defense and he could help them right away. I just think some of the drawbacks and like having to, build the pass rush up from scratch, like they didn't really even trust him in a lot of pass rush situations when he was at Georgia and like had other guys like Devontae Wyatt on the field, so
And
I
it
think those
seemed
are
like
things that scare
opposing
you.
offenses tried to identify that too and try to exploit that. Whenever he was in the game, they would try to switch the play to get them into a pass play because that was definitely more favorable.
Yeah, and one of the things too is it just seemed like there was too many times where he just got stuck at the line of scrimmage. Like it just, if there's a guy one-on-one, he has the ability to just push that dude back and get some pocket push and push him back into the quarterback. But like that was the only move. There's no moves, there's no hand technique there. He's not ripping and swiping or doing any of those things or setting up counters or anything like that. It's just raw power and trying to win with raw power every time. The one other thing too that bothered me a little bit is like get your hands up more. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like if you're at the line of scrimmage, especially against quick passing attacks that you're going to see all over the place in college, like you're a giant dude. Like
Yeah,
the fact that
strike
he only
somebody,
had,
strike them, right?
yeah,
Make
well,
them
I
feel
mean,
your power.
no, I'm just saying, like, get your hands up and knock
Oh,
passes
yeah, yeah.
down. Like,
Yeah,
get
yeah,
in
yeah.
passing lanes. You're such a
Yeah, you're
huge
already
dude. Like,
6'6", right? Like,
yeah, and I think he
utilize
knocked
that
down
size.
one pass in his college career over those 4 seasons. Like those giant, arms, hands, they could definitely knock down a lot of passes. But another giant positional need for the Chargers finding that right tackle to bookend with, Rashawn Slater, the all pro on the other side. And that could be a direction that the Chargers go in the 2022 draft, going right tackle in the first round. And the one guy that's been selected to them most in all of these mocks is Trevor Penning. So we're going to talk about the fit there from Northern Iowa after this. But first, I need to tell you guys about something I've been drooling to talk about this entire time. And of course, I'm talking about Built Bars, because Built Bars are my favorite protein bar. And right now, I'm leaning on Built Bars more than ever. I got a wedding coming up in less than a year that I have to get ready for. And when I need a treat, when I have to get off my diet or feel like I need a cheat, there's only one thing I go to, and it's Built Bars. I can have that cookies and cream candy bar I've wanted. I can have that peanut butter brownie candy bar I've wanted, except for it's not a candy bar. It's a Built Bar, which is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, because there's nothing worse than getting a protein bar and having it taste chalky or having it taste waxy, right? You can have something that actually tastes good, that's good for you, that's loaded with protein, loaded with fiber, super low on carbs and super low on sugars as well. That just doesn't happen very often. You're not getting the combo. You have a true, like, we're talking about draft prospects right now. Like, it's a can't miss prospect. It's good in both areas. It's not like Jordan Davis, who can't rush the passer. He can stop the run and rush the passer. That's what Built Bar kind of has the opportunity to do. And that's kind of the way they are in the protein bar world. But since you guys listen to the show, we can even save you guys some money. If you go to built.com, you can save 15% off your order with the promo code LOCKED15. You can get that mix box, try all the flavors they have available. It's promo code LOCKED15 to save 15% off at built.com. All right, David. Well, we talked about one big time prospect, and that guy, Jordan Davis, is pretty polarizing if you're on, Chargers social media, which we get to see a lot, right? And there's a lot of people that love him, a lot of people that don't. But one guy that isn't getting talked about as much on, social media, probably not as sexy of a pick as Northern Iowa's Trevor Penning. And they're most known for, Noah Spencer from a couple of years ago that came out as just a giant right tackle that was just a behemoth that, even though he played at a lower level, teams were willing to take a big chance on, right? Well, with Trevor Penning, I mean, he was another guy that in that mock draft roundup, a lot of people had the Chargers being interested in the 2022 draft. Bucky Brooks picked him as their pick at 17. So did Dane Brugler from The Athletic. And this is a guy, David, that obviously he would fill the right role. I mean, you have Rashawn Slater. You got that can't miss prospect in the first round last year that slid to you. And I understand the thought process of trying to fill the right tackle position to try to get two guys, you have at least 4 years to kind of build something together in between.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Trevor Penning, are we talking about big guys? I mean, this guy's even bigger than Jordan Davis is. He's 6'7", so he's got him by an inch, which is ridiculous to say. But, I mean, this is a mauler, physical type player. I mean, add that type of profile. When Brandon Staley says that he wants to get bigger on the offensive line, I mean, you can't get much bigger than 6'7". So that would definitely fit the bill.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think I said Noah Spencer was a former Iowa player. Spencer Brown was the guy, another offensive lineman from Northern Iowa. I don't know where they're finding these giant, offensive linemen. He's like kind of the offensive line version of what we were talking about with Jordan Davis. There's a couple of those dudes out there, including that Minnesota dude who's 6'9", 380 pounds or whatever. I'm sure we'll talk about him at some point, but he has a lot to like, especially with that build that you're talking about, David. Super tall, super long. Seems like he carries the weight very well when he's in open space. A lot of things he does that you like to see, especially from a guy who's that big and can have some problems with footwork and things like that. The harder, further you get away from the ground. But what did you like about Penning when you were watching him?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is, I mean, the guy's big as a house, and he's just hard to get around. I mean, just first and foremost, as an offensive lineman, he played mostly on the left side at left tackle over there at Northern Iowa. But, I mean, he has some position flexibility. I mean, if you look at Pro Football Focus, it had him taking snaps at right guard as well as right tackle and left tackle. So he did move around a little bit, but he played the majority of his snaps at left tackle. He only gave up 2 sacks and 4 hits in his last 651 pass blocking snaps. That's over the past 2 seasons in which he played 18 games. So the guy's pretty damn solid in pass protection. I mean, he's a mauler type in the run game, though. And I think this is his biggest best attribute is he is a guy who is trying to finish guys with violent intentions.
Yep.
That's the type of offensive lineman that just brings that nastiness that you want. That's a guy who brings that attitude to the offensive line. Also, he has a very powerful anchor too. You talked about him carrying his weight well. He's really, really strong too, and he definitely, it seems like he has no trouble stymieing any kind of bull rush.
Yeah, I mean, he'll get close to the quarterback, right? Maybe
Yeah,
a little closer than you want, especially
right.
just because he's so tall. I mean, each step that he gives up is a lot of space, right? But he also has no problem because of that length getting to those speed rushers, pushing him around the arc, right? Pushing them
Yeah,
around the quarterback because he has those long arms and he has enough strength to kind of keep people extended out there. I do think quick moves inside gave him some problems at sometimes
definitely.
because, like, that's another thing. If you're big, long dude, like those inside moves are going to give you a lot of trouble at points. But another thing though that happens is like he did get caught up in a lot of like one-handed blocking situations when I was watching him a lot. Guy kind of tries to come back inside and he has him kind of like with one arm. He's like, I'm not holding him, but it like looks
Yeah,
really awkward. Like I don't know how much that you can do against the grown ass men of the NFL,
right.
but there is a lot to like there. And like, I mean, whether it was pass protection or run blocking, David, he was just if you got off balanced in front of him, he was going to put you in the dirt. And I think you love
Yeah,
that. You love a dude that's going to, get out there and make people pay, especially if they try to spin back in. Okay, well, I'm pushing you face down in the dirt and I'm going to lay on top of you till the play is over, right?
yeah. I saw that several times, man.
That's happened to me like as a football player. Like I've had an offensive lineman lay on top of me and like probably 4 seconds I was down there were like felt like an eternity. Man. Like, it's demoralizing to have that happen to you, but
Definitely.
but there's still some drawbacks, right, David? I
Yeah,
mean, and I've gotten spoiled because I've watched, last year I watched Penei Sewell and
yeah.
Rashawn Slater, and the year before that it's Jedrick Wills and
Right.
Tristan Wirfs, like so many good, really good tackles the last couple of drafts where we're just like, Chargers, please get one. They finally got one last year. But
Yeah.
there are some drawbacks to this as well, to picking him at 17.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the thing, yes, he's so big, but because he's so big, I think he tends to play too high from time to time, and he definitely gets in trouble. And also, like you said, he does have a lot of trouble with that inside move. If a pass rusher has a really strong jab inside move, they can get past him for sure.
Yeah.
He needs to learn to let go and to avoid holding. I think there was a couple of situations to where if he would have pulled the Rashawn Slater and just let him go, they would have avoided that flag and they would have been able to get the ball off. And last but not least for me is he's not very graceful in space. He is a big kind of clunky type of runner. I don't think he really gets to his spots as effectively as you want to. But as far as the role is concerned, I mean, I do think, in the NFL, you probably would have to switch him over to the right side. I think he's a more effective right tackle at the next level with some position flexibility.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. There's definitely, I mean, you've seen him at least move around a little bit, so that's kind of nice, obviously. But you'd be moving, especially obviously in this scenario with the Chargers. He's the right tackle, right? I mean, he's
Yeah.
the guy you're trying to put. He's not competing against Rashawn Slater for the job. I can feel
No.
very confident in saying that. But yeah, I mean, the thing about him in space is like it's tantalizing because he covers a lot of ground. Like the
Yeah.
dude can move and he can get to the spots, but a lot of times he just has trouble connecting once he gets there, right? Like
Yeah.
he'll get to the spot, he'll overrun the spot at times, right? And guys will come in inside of him and get underneath him and make a play there. So
Yeah.
I do think some of that can be helped because obviously he's athletic enough to get there, but you
Mhm.
have to connect when you get to the second level to really start springing those, 10-yard, 12-yard runs,
Yeah.
things like that. The Chargers have a lot of combo blocks where you're moving up to the second level to try to get that backside defender to really spring a run. So either way, I mean, at this point, David, with the limited, players that we've gotten to watch, like I would understand it, like I
Yeah.
don't know, we're not putting our stamps on guys because we haven't really been able to compare them to a lot of other
Right.
guys, but like I would understand the thought process behind it.
Yeah, the dude's got some traits that you like for sure. Like I
Yeah.
said, I mean, he's a violent physical player, both as a run blocker and as a pass blocker. But I mean, he definitely has some things he needs to work on. But I feel like if this is a guy that you're going to go with, that you would probably be wise to have a very strong right guard that's going to
Mhm.
play next to him. I think that would really help him, especially with some of those combo blocks that you were talking about, and just help kind of keep him on rhythm and really keep him in line. I think that would really help him really get the best out of him in his first few years in the league.
Yeah, and I think like we were talking about before the show, like Chargers fans getting behind a small school, offensive tackle
Yeah.
could be a tough sell. But I think another thing that a lot of fans know the Chargers need is to get more help on the edge. And a couple of experts have, a guy who's maybe projected in the top 10 a lot of places at edge defender, George Karlaftis, falling to the Chargers. So we'll talk about the pros and cons of that situation and the positional need there for the Chargers. But I also need to tell Chargers fans about an incredible app that everyone who buys gas needs to know about. Get Upside. My listeners are earning cash back on every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play Store right now. Use the promo code TOUCHDOWN for 25 cents or more back on your first fill up, guys. I mean, I shouldn't have to tell you that the gas prices are ridiculous, right? I live in California. I love Get Upside because, I mean, I've saved 3 cents, I've saved 25 cents. I mean, usually it's on the plus side of that, but you feel good every time you save money at the gas pump. And there's no downside with Get Upside. You can get the money directly into your bank account. You can get it through PayPal. You can get it through Amazon gift cards and other big brand gift cards as well. And you're doing something you were already doing anyways and going to the get gas at the gas pump. And don't forget to use the promo code TOUCHDOWN. You guys can get 25 cents or more back on your first fill up since you listen to the show. Start saving money at the gas pump now, guys. Make sure you remember that promo code TOUCHDOWN. Save 25 cents or more on that first fill up. All right, David, we have one more guy to get to here, and it's George Karlaftis, a guy that didn't get the kind of hype in the regular season that a Kayvon Thibodeau, right, or an Aiden Hutchinson got with those big-time programs. He's playing at Purdue, the spoiler makers, right, and in the Big Ten, he was a little bit, overshadowed by some of the other dudes that had some really good seasons there. But this is another position where it's a realistic position for the Chargers to address because right now you have Uchenna Nwosu going into free agency. He's an unrestricted free agent. We don't know what's going to happen with that contract or even what the market value of that contract is going to be at this point. So
Yeah.
we know the Chargers need help there. I mean, yeah, you could go after a Von Miller who, I mean, is headed back to the Super Bowl, right? So that seems less and less likely by the day. But you can add something in free agency that's not Uchenna Nwosu, but it's a big need. The Chargers need an edge rusher. It's hard to find impact players on the edge. So just from a positional standpoint, I would understand if they decide to go edge in the first round. I wouldn't be against it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always for adding more pass rushers, especially with the Chargers who have really suffered or have not been very good at getting after the passer. If your name isn't Joey Bosa, it just there hasn't been any kind of significant pressure from anyone else. Uchenna, he's turned it on later on in the year, and he got a little bit better. Jerry Tillery flashes from time to time, but as an overall group, they're just not getting after the passer at a high enough rate. So they need to add more bodies, more guys that can get after the passer. And George Karlaftis can definitely get after the quarterback.
Yeah, I think, when people watch George Karlaftis, I think it's like your pass rusher's favorite pass rusher kind of thing, just because the dude throws so much at you. I mean, he'll throw the entire kitchen sink at you.
Yes,
and
sir.
the work never stops. It's one move to another move, stringing them together. He never quits. He has definitely some hustle sacks on his resume, but there's a lot definitely to like about this guy. I mean, I do think he is, overshadowed by those two guys, and there's a great chance he doesn't get to the Chargers. But when Rashawn Slater falls to the 13th pick, when Derwin James falls to the 17th pick, you don't get to, rule out guys at the 17th overall pick anymore because we know the Chargers have gotten great players there before and had other people slide to them. And this is a draft class, David, where there's a lot of, parity. Like there's not a clear cut drop off or a point where it drops off. Like some talented guys are going to slide, but it's like there's not a very solid top 10 dudes where you're like, those are the best 10 people that are going into the NFL. So there's a lot of different ways they could go. And going with this dude, I would like it just because, it's hard to say I would be all for it right now, but like if they decided to go this way, I would understand it because the dude brings a lot of good to the table.
Yeah, he does. I mean, 26 games, 14 sacks, only 2 games played his sophomore year, but 29 tackles for loss too. So not only was he getting after the quarterback, but he was also getting the ball carriers in the backfield too. An excellent motor. I mean, this guy, has one of those, nonstop motors that you love. He has really active and effective hand usage. I mean, that's one of his best weapons. I think the hand swipe is used to great effectiveness. He uses a great rip move. He's even added a spin move.
Swipe.
Yeah, the double swipe. Yep, for sure. quick inside attack move, I think, is one of his most effective pass rushing moves. He really used that to great effectiveness, and he added a lot of good power and ability. I think early on, I was watching some early games. He was definitely a little bit more slight on the frame. I think we approached this season and into this season, he added some really good weight to his frame and actually looked like he can hold up on the edge. I mean, the first couple years in college, he had some trouble with that, but he added a lot of that weight that he really needed to really be a force against the run and really be able to set that edge properly. So a lot of good things to like about Karlaftis.
Yeah, I mean, you love players who play hard, right? And that's what
Yeah,
this dude does. Like, he never quits on any rep, and like he has the technique as well to throw a lot at you. But yeah, I mean, the inside move, he likes to get up. It's good for him because he gets up fuel quick. He has a
yeah,
really good first step. He can get you off balance and get you going, then turn it back inside on you really quick.
yeah,
One thing that can do, is make you struggle with containment, and you can lose contain. And we've seen that with George Karlaftis a little bit.
yeah,
Something he'll have to work on because he gets up field because he's, pinning his ear backs. He's getting off so quick that
yeah,
you can run underneath him at times, right? And one of the things too is just how much, how many counters that he has, how disruptive he can be in the running game is another thing. Cause like in the running game, it's hit or miss because he
yeah,
can be disruptive, which is great.
yeah,
Having guys, and he's turned, a lot of running backs into the hands of waiting defensive tackles and so on and so forth, just by being able to get that penetration and be able to be slippery,
yeah,
get through creases, get into the backfield. But at the same time, he doesn't have super long arms. So there's
right.
a lot of close plays. There's a lot of almost sacks, right? And there's a lot of stuff like that where guys, unless he's kind of, right on it, he's not going to make the tackle a lot of times. And it does hurt him when guys do get their hands on him. It's very hard for him to stack blockers and shed them, right? And like a traditional
Yeah,
defensive end would do. This is a tough one for me because I would kind of like a super, traitsy player opposite of Joey Bosa. Because you look at like the
sure.
Von Millers, the Leonard Floyds, like there's a certain type of build that Brandon Staley likes to deploy. This guy seems more like a 4-3 defensive end, kind of what you'd see in Gus Bradley's system. But the Chargers play with 4 down linemen a lot. It's almost
Yeah,
always nickel with them. But there are some things, David, where it's like I would like the pick. Like I would understand the pick. I like
yeah,
the player for sure.
yeah.
He might not even get there because some teams are so happy. And it's not like he's a dude that's putting up a ton of sack numbers. So there's a
No.
lot to like there. But there's also some drawbacks too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he is a pretty good pass rusher, but he's not exceptionally bendy. I don't think he's not
No, it's not
super
his
fluid.
game.
Yeah, he's not really that type of player, but he has every other kind of pass rush move, and he does use those to pretty good effectiveness.
Yeah, he
He
uses
has
his hands too, right? Like a lot
yeah,
of it's just coming off of like he's gonna pop you.
yeah,
Like
for sure.
that's one thing we didn't talk about the pros, which he deserves because he
Well,
has
yeah, I
some
said
dynamite in
he
those
had
situations.
active hands for sure. I mean,
Active hands, but
yeah,
like powerful hands. Like
yeah,
he gets
explosive.
people off balance and then he throws them. You know what I mean? That's just kind of how it is, and that's why he's so effective at times.
Yeah, definitely. There's no question. But I mean, although he's improved shedding blocks, I mean that was one thing. Also, early on, he really struggled,
Yeah,
really struggled shedding blocks, and he's gotten better. But I think he still has some room
and he's
to
20
improve.
years old too. That's what we
Yeah,
have to,
exactly.
which is crazy. Which is
Right.
crazy.
Right. So he's gotten better, and I think that's another thing to like is that he's improved year in and year out in college. So he obviously knows how to learn and he knows how to get better. Also, I think the last thing is he just needs to learn how to tackle a little bit better in space. I think that's something with that kind of limited
Short
range,
radius.
limited
Yeah.
length. Yeah, that short radius you were talking about. That's one thing he has to improve on. But I think this guy has a lot of things to like, and you just love the type of player who really gives it his all, snap in and snap out, and that's definitely something you're going to get from Karlaftis. So
Yeah.
a good pick. I don't know if I'm completely sold on him,
Sure.
just because I want more of a complete player. But I mean, as you said, as a pass rusher, those guys tend to go very, very quickly.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see where these guys go because, like, David Ajambo is a guy that other people have mocked to the Chargers as well. More of a toolsy, athletically gifted type of player. But with George Karlaftis, I mean, there's a lot to like. It's hard not to root for the dude just because you can see how hard he's trying. You can see the technique is there,
Yeah,
but the thing that doesn't help him with the short arms is like he's not super quick to redirect. Like
yeah,
he doesn't it takes him a second to go left or left or
yeah,
right. Like if he doesn't have the perfect angle on guys at times, it's hard for him to kind of change that angle and make the tackle
He's
anyways
not the
with his arm.
twitchiest athlete, and I think that's definitely something that shows up when you watch him.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is that's tough with him though is like he does have some twitchy moments, especially the hands
Well, he
and
has
the
a
get
good
off.
get off. Yeah, the
Yeah, I
get
mean
off for
that's
sure.
for sure, but like it's just the redirection because like
Yeah,
quick get off doesn't necessarily mean you're good in the 3 cone because it's not
right.
just getting to that first cone, it's
Yeah,
coming back and going back. It's the
yeah,
start and stop. I think that is tough, and it's like even sometimes he's had a straight beeline for a quarterback. A subtle move has made him miss a time from
yeah,
not as athletic of quarterbacks, but love the disruption. Love the power that he comes with and just that he's willing to kind of just keep throwing moves at somebody until something ends up working. Like there's
yeah.
no quit, great motor. And those are the kind of players like Joey Bosa coming out was more physically gifted.
Oh
Right.
yeah,
But that was one of the things we loved about him was just that motor, that unwillingness to quit. Like
yeah,
if you get him and Joey Bosa on the same line, those are two dudes that are just going to be terrorizing offensive tackles for an entire game and like really making them, work for their money that day. Like, and that's why just edge in general, David, is so attractive. So like we'll
yeah,
be getting into other guys and stuff for sure, that we'll compare it to, and we'll talk about what the depth is going to be. Right in the second round, is it better to wait on edge and things like that? But it's interesting. It was a good group of players to watch, right? I think it was a good way to jump into this.
yeah. It was great to put your feet in the water and kind of test things out, get back into the watching tape
Yeah.
mode. And I mean, I think we've gotten better and better of putting out draft content, and I think this year is going to be our best year yet. So I mean, definitely continue to check in with us because we're going to be going through draft prospects all the way up until the draft.
Yeah, and I mean today we didn't talk about the Sauce Gardners or the Andrew Booths of the world, and we didn't get to the receivers, the Garrett Wilsons, the Chris Olaves, the Traylon Burks, right? So there's a lot of other guys that could end up being selected here, and we'll keep getting into more guys that the Chargers should take with that 17th pick because that's going to be a huge pick. If you're talking about draft picks, that's the guy that you have that's most likely going to come in and contribute right away. But that's going to do it for today's show. There were some playoff takeaways I had again after this weekend. Maybe defense is a little bit more important than we thought it was. Ask the Cincinnati Bengals. Are we happy that the Rams are going to make it? There's a couple things I definitely want to talk about, and there's some more Chargers stuff we have to get into this week. But that is going to do it for today's show. As always, make sure to subscribe to the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel. If you're watching on here now, go to the bottom, hit the subscribe button so you never miss a show, and also follow the show for free on all platforms wherever you get your podcast from. And just in case you can't find it any of those places, guys, we post the show to all of our social media every day. So you can go on our Twitter at LockedOnLAC or the at Locked On Chargers Instagram page or the Locked On Chargers Facebook page, and we're blowing it out everywhere you can find social media. We don't have TikTok yet, Dave. Maybe that's the next step. But you can also get your thoughts and questions in short questions, hopefully on the Locked On Chargers voicemail line. The number there is 323-524-7924. And if you want to interact with us, as always, you can find me on Twitter at Dan Talk Sports and David Drogmeyer on Twitter at DroTalkSD. But we'll be back with you guys tomorrow. Until then, take it easy and go Bolts.